Oh, are not too nice. You are too available. And there is a difference between the two that most men will never understand. The world does not hate kindness. The world hates weakness disguised as kindness. And if you are watching this, there is a high probability that your niceness is not being read as goodness. It is being read as an invitation to take more than they should, to push further than they would with someone else, to treat you like a man who will not push back. Today, we are going to dismantle that perception, not by making you cruel, not by making you cold for attention, but by showing you how to carry warmth like a weapon instead of wearing neediness like a badge. If you are ready to stop being underestimated, comment right now, "My kindness is armored," because the man who fixes this does not become harsh, he becomes unreadable. Number 1, the distinction that changes everything. Nice is a performance, kind is a position, and most men have confused the two so completely that they have built an identity out of being agreeable, while the world quietly files them under the category of man who can be moved. The nice man says yes before he knows what the request costs him. The kind man says yes only when the yes serves his kingdom. The nice man smiles when he wants to leave. The kind man leaves when the conversation no longer deserves his presence. The nice man apologizes for having standards. The kind man protects his standards without needing anyone to applaud him for it. Machiavelli did not warn against being loved. He warned against being loved out of fear that you might say no. That is the difference. When people love you because you are useful, that is not love. That is utility. When people love you because you are harmless, that is not respect. That is convenience. And here is the cold truth that most men refuse to accept until the damage is already done. Nobody respects a man who is nice to everyone, because a man who is nice to everyone is a man who has no standards, and a man who has no standards is a man who has no center. He is a leaf. He moves with every breeze. He bends with every pressure. And the world, whether it admits this or not, despises a leaf. It steps on it. It forgets it. It uses it to reach higher ground. You do not need to become cruel. You need to become directional. You need to become a man whose warmth is so rare that it carries weight. A man whose yes is valuable because his no is absolute. A man who does not scatter his energy across every open hand, but who directs it like a general directs his army, with precision, with purpose, and with the understanding that every unit deployed in the wrong territory is a unit stolen from the war that actually matters. Comment this now, "I am not a leaf." Because the moment you stop performing niceness and start owning your position, the air around you changes. People sense it before they can name it. They feel the shift from a man who is trying to be liked to a man who is simply being himself. And that shift is the beginning of every real transformation. Number 2, why your niceness is being read as weakness. There is a psychology behind this that most men never study. It is not personal. It is not that people are evil. It is that human beings are wired to read social signals for dominance and submission. And niceness, when it is delivered from a place of need, sends the same signal as submission. The weak man offers help because he wants to be needed. The strong man offers help because he decides the help is worth his time. The weak man agrees because he fears the tension of disagreement. The strong man disagrees because he respects the truth more than he fears the silence that follows. The weak man compliments because he wants something back. The strong man compliments only when the compliment is earned, and he expects nothing in return because his words are not currency. They are observations. When you operate from need, your body language changes, your tone shifts, your timing becomes reactive. You lean in too quickly. You laugh at jokes that are not funny. You nod at opinions you do not hold. You offer explanations for decisions that require none. And every single one of these behaviors is being scanned, processed, and filed by the people around you. Here is what dark psychology reveals. People do not test strength, they test compliance. They push boundaries not because they are cruel, but because they are biological machines searching for the edges of your territory. And when they find no edge, they do not respect your generosity. They expand into your space. They ask for more. They arrive late because you never enforced punctuality. They cancel plans because you never enforced your own time. They speak over you because you never enforced your own voice. And the most painful part is this: you train them to do it. Every time you swallowed your own preference to keep the peace, you taught them that your preference was negotiable. Every time you accepted disrespect with a smile, you taught them that disrespect was affordable. Every time you made yourself smaller so someone else could feel bigger, you taught them that your size was optional. This is not about becoming aggressive. This is about becoming honest. Because the man who is honest about what he will tolerate does not need to raise his voice. His boundaries speak for him. His silence speaks for him. His absence speaks for him. Comment this now: I trained them, now I retrained them. Because the only way to fix a dynamic you created is to first own that you created it. Not with shame, with architecture. You are the architect of your own social position, and every interaction is either reinforcing your authority or eroding it. There is no neutral ground. Number 3, the approval trap. There is a hidden addiction that destroys more men than alcohol, more men than laziness, more men than fear itself. The addiction to being seen as a good guy. The addiction to the nod, the smile, the "you're such a nice person." The reputation of being easy to get along with. And it is an addiction because it functions exactly like one. It gives you a temporary hit of validation, and then it leaves you weaker than before. The weak man needs approval to feel real. The strong man feels real regardless of what the room thinks. The unbeatable man is so internally anchored that approval feels pleasant but never necessary. Machiavelli understood this with surgical precision. He wrote that a prince must avoid the trap of being loved if that love makes him dependent on the moods of the people. Because the same crowd that loves you today will despise you tomorrow if you stop giving them what they want. And a man who needs their love cannot afford to make the hard decisions that real leadership, real power, and real self-respect demand. Look at your own life. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no because you could already imagine the disappointment on their face? How many times have you swallowed your own truth because you did not want to be seen as difficult? How many times have you let someone waste your time because you were afraid of the momentary awkwardness of setting a boundary? That is not kindness. That is emotional cowardice dressed in polite clothing. And it is costing you everything. Because here is what happens when you live for approval. You become a mirror. You reflect back what people want to see. You agree with their politics. You laugh at their humor. You adopt their opinions. You mirror their energy. And in the process, you lose the one thing that makes a man truly powerful: his edge, his difference, his uncompromising ownership of who he is. The man who is addicted to approval is a man who has outsourced his self-esteem to a committee that meets without him. And that committee is fickle. That committee is emotional. That committee will turn on him the moment he stops performing. You must become a man who can tolerate being misunderstood. A man who can tolerate being disliked. A man who can tolerate the silence that follows a boundary. Because that silence is not rejection. That silence is the sound of the old version of you dying. And something new is trying to be born in that space. Comment this now: I do not need the room to agree with me. Because the moment you stop needing agreement, you stop being a mirror. You become a source. And sources are rare. Sources are respected. Sources are the men who set the temperature of the room instead of adjusting to it. Number 4, the workplace battlefield. Let me give you a real example. A man I will call Marcus. Marcus was talented. Marcus was competent. Marcus was the first to arrive and the last to leave. And Marcus was passed over for promotion 3 times while less talented, less reliable, more difficult men climbed past him. Marcus came to me convinced that the system was rigged. That office politics were poison. That hard work should speak for itself. And I told him something that broke his heart before it rebuilt his mind. Hard work does not speak. People speak. And if your presence does not command attention, your work will be absorbed by someone else's voice. Marcus was nice. He accepted extra work without extra pay. He covered for people who never covered for him. He let his ideas be stolen in meetings because he did not want to seem confrontational. He laughed at jokes that demeaned him because he wanted to be seen as a team player. And every single one of those choices sent a signal. Marcus is safe to overlook. Marcus will not push back. Marcus will absorb the costs so we do not have to. The man who got the promotion was not more talented. He was more expensive to ignore. He said no to tasks that were beneath his position. He corrected people in meetings with calm precision. He did not explain his value. He simply stopped making it available for free. And the company, sensing that his energy had a price, raised the price to keep him. Marcus fixed this, not by becoming cruel, not by becoming the office villain, but by becoming strategic. He stopped volunteering for everything. He started asking, what is the priority, before accepting new work. He stopped laughing at jokes that cost him his dignity. He stopped explaining his decisions to people who had not earned his transparency. And within 6 months, the same people who had walked past him were now asking for his input before making decisions. Not because he had changed his character, because he had changed his currency. Comment this now: my work is not free. Because your talent, your time, and your energy are the only real currency you possess. And a man who gives his currency away for approval is a man who will always be broke in the places that matter. Number 5, the social circle audit. The same dynamic happens in your friendships, in your family, in your romantic relationships. You are being sized up every single time you enter a room. And if you have trained the people around you to expect your compliance, they will keep expecting it until the cost of that expectation becomes visible. The weak man keeps toxic people close because he fears loneliness. The strong man removes toxic people because he respects his own environment. The unbeatable man is so selective about his circle that his absence from the wrong rooms becomes a statement louder than any argument. Think about your closest friends, the ones you see every week, the ones you text, the ones you trust. Now ask yourself a brutal question. How many of them would still be in your life if you stopped being useful to them? How many of them are there because you listen to their problems, cover their bills, drive them places, validate their choices, and absorb their chaos without ever asking them to hold anything for you? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is intelligence. That discomfort is your mind trying to show you the architecture of a dynamic that has been draining you for years. The nice man keeps everyone because he thinks abundance means having many people. The kind man keeps only those who have proven, through consistent action, that they are building in the same direction he is. The nice man fears the empty chair. The kind man knows that an empty chair is better than a toxic presence. Machiavelli would tell you that a prince must be careful about who he allows into his council, not because people are evil, but because people are self-interested. And self-interest, when it is hidden behind smile and familiarity, is the most dangerous weapon in the room. It strikes when you are relaxed. It strikes when you trust. It strikes when you have forgotten to guard the gate. You must audit your circle the way a king audits his court. Without drama, without announcements, without emotional explosions. Simply observe. Watch who shows up when you have nothing to offer. Watch who respects your time. Watch who tells you the truth when the truth is uncomfortable. Watch who celebrates your growth without resentment. And then, quietly, methodically, without guilt, adjust the access you give each person based on the evidence of their behavior, not their words, their behavior. Comment this now. I audit my circle like a king, because your inner circle is your most strategic territory. And the wrong person inside that circle can unravel in months what took you years of isolation and discipline to build. Number 6, the relationship mirror. Now let us talk about the place where this wound hurts the most, romantic relationships. Because this is where niceness is most often mistaken for love, and where weakness is most often mistaken for devotion. The weak man in a relationship gives everything to avoid tension. He apologizes when he is not wrong. He compromises his boundaries to keep her comfortable. He suppresses his own needs to prioritize hers. He accepts disrespect because he fears the withdrawal of affection. And he calls this love. It is not love. It is fear with a costume. The strong man in a relationship does not withhold love. He withholds his neediness. He does not play games. He plays his position. He is warm. He is present. He is loyal. But he is not available to be controlled. He does not chase. He does not beg. He does not perform his devotion for validation. His devotion is simply a fact, like gravity. It does not need to be announced. It does not need to be proven. It exists, and it is heavy enough to be felt without explanation. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But in the context of modern relationships, the translation is this: it is better to be respected than merely liked. Because a woman who likes you can fall out of like, but a woman who respects you cannot easily unsee what she has seen. She cannot forget the man who held his ground. She cannot forget the man who did not flinch when she tested him. She cannot forget the man whose silence was more powerful than her anger. And here is the paradox that breaks the nice man's brain. The moment you stop needing her approval, you become more attractive. The moment you stop chasing her attention, you become more interesting. The moment you stop performing your devotion becomes real. Because it is no longer a transaction. It is no longer a payment for affection. It is simply who you are. The nice man asks, what does she want from me? The strong man asks, does this woman add to my kingdom or subtract from it? Not because he is cold, but because he is strategic. He knows that a relationship built on his weakness will eventually collapse under the weight of his resentment, and he refuses to build on that foundation. Comment this now. My love is not my leash, because the man who loves without losing himself is the only man capable of loving fully. Everything else is performance, and performance always ends. Number 7, strategic warmth. Now we arrive at the core of the fix. How do you stop being read as weak without becoming cruel? How do you keep your heart open without leaving your gates unguarded? The answer is strategic warmth. And strategic warmth is the art of being genuinely kind from a position of strength instead of desperately nice from a position of need. The weak man is nice because he wants something. The strong man is kind because he has already given himself everything he needs. The weak man's warmth is a bribe. The strong man's warmth is a gift. And the difference is invisible to most people, but it is felt by everyone. Strategic warmth means you smile when you choose to smile. Not because you are nervous, not because you want to be liked, but because the smile is yours to give. Strategic warmth means you help when you decide the help is warranted. Not because you are afraid of being seen as selfish, but because your resources are yours to allocate. Strategic warmth means you listen with genuine attention. Not because you are trying to earn her trust, but because your attention is so valuable that giving it is an act of power, not an act of submission. This is the mindset shift. Your kindness is not a weakness to be eliminated. It is a strength to be protected. It is a fortress, and fortresses do not let everyone inside. They have gates, they have guards, they have walls. And the people who are allowed inside understand that the invitation was earned. Machiavelli would respect this. He would not tell you to become a monster. He would tell you to become a lion who knows when to show his teeth and when to let the lamb sleep in his shadow. The lion is not cruel. The lion is simply clear about what he is. And that clarity makes him safe to respect and dangerous to test. You must become the same, warm when the moment calls for it, silent when the moment demands it, firm when the boundary is pressed, and completely, utterly unavailable to be moved by guilt, pressure, or the fear of being disliked. Comment this now. I am warm like a fortress, not soft like a pillow. Because the world does not need more cruel men. It needs more controlled men. Men whose kindness is so grounded in self-respect that it cannot be mistaken for anything else. Number 8, the boundary architecture. If you take nothing else from this, take this. Boundaries are not walls you build to keep people out. Boundaries are the architecture of your self-respect. They are the blueprint that tells the world how you expect to be treated. And when you do not have that blueprint, people will build whatever structure serves them. The weak man sets boundaries with anger. He explodes after years of silence. He screams after months of swallowing. He cuts people off dramatically because he never learned how to correct the dynamic while it was still small. And that explosion, that dramatic severing, is itself a sign of weakness. It is a man who has lost control of his own kingdom and is now burning it down to feel powerful. The strong man sets boundaries with precision. He corrects early, he corrects calmly, he corrects once, and then he enforces. He does not explain the same boundary 10 times. He does not negotiate his own standards. He does not ask for permission to protect his own territory. He simply states the law of his land and then watches to see who respects it. Here is how it sounds in practice. When someone asks for a favor that costs you too much, you do not say, "I would love to help, but I am so busy and I feel terrible, and maybe next time." You say, "I cannot take that on right now," and then you stop talking. You do not fill the silence with excuses. You do not apologize for having limits. You let the silence do the work. When someone speaks to you with disrespect, you do not say, "That really hurt my feelings and I need you to understand why." You say, "Do not speak to me like that." And then you stop talking. You do not debate your own dignity. You do not explain why you deserve respect. You simply remove your presence from the disrespect until the disrespect is corrected. When someone tests your time by being late, you do not say, "It's fine, no worries, I was just checking my phone." You say, "I value punctuality. If this happens again, I will need to reschedule." And then you follow through, because a boundary without enforcement is just a suggestion. And suggestions are for restaurants, not for kings. The unbeatable man understands that every time he enforces a boundary, he is teaching the world how to treat him. And every time he ignores a boundary being crossed, he is teaching the world that his standards are optional. Comment this now. My boundaries are my architecture. Because a man without boundaries is a man without a shape. And a man without a shape will be poured into whatever mold the people around him find convenient. Number 9, the silence fix. There is one habit that undoes niceness faster than any other. The need to explain yourself. The need to justify your choices. The need to make sure everyone understands your reasoning so they do not think you are mean or difficult or selfish or cold. The weak man explains because he needs to be understood. The strong man does not explain because he already understands himself. The unbeatable man is so clear about his own reasoning that other people's confusion is simply not his problem. This is the final piece, and it is the hardest to master. Because we live in a culture that demands explanation, that demands transparency, that demands that you account for your time, your choices, your boundaries, your silence, your absence. And the moment you start accounting for yourself to people who have not earned your transparency, you have handed them the keys to your psychology. Machiavelli warned that a prince must learn to be a great liar and dissembler. But in the modern context, the translation is simpler. You do not owe your truth to everyone. You do not owe your reasoning to people who are only gathering information to use against you. You do not owe your plans to people who have proven they cannot be trusted with your progress. The nice man explains his no, the kind man simply says no. The nice man justifies his absence, the kind man simply is absent. The nice man defends his reputation to people who have already decided to misunderstand him. The kind man lets them misunderstand, because he knows that a reputation built on explanation is a reputation built on sand, and a reputation built on results is a reputation built on stone. You must learn to let people be wrong about you. Let them think you are cold. Let them think you have changed. Let them think you are selfish. Let them create their stories while you create your kingdom. Because the man who is busy building does not have time to correct every rumor. The man who is focused on his mission does not have energy to defend every misunderstanding. And the man who is truly powerful does not need the crowd's narrative to validate his own. Comment this now: I do not explain my throne, because the king who explains his crown to the peasant has already lost his kingdom. The king who simply wears his crown and does the work needs no explanation. His presence is the explanation. Number 10, the final code. Rebuild your currency. You have arrived at the end of the architecture, but this is not a conclusion. This is a commencement. Everything you have absorbed about niceness, about weakness, about strategic warmth, about boundaries, about silence, none of it means anything until it becomes behavior. The nice man watches content and nods. The strong man watches content and applies. The unbeatable man watches content and transforms. You are not here to be entertained. You are here to be rebuilt. And the rebuilding starts now, not tomorrow, not when the conditions are perfect, not when you feel ready now. Look at your life today. Look at the next interaction you will have, the next request, the next conversation, the next moment where someone expects your automatic compliance. And in that moment, make a different choice. Pause. Feel the old habit pulling you to say yes, to smile, to explain, to apologize, to shrink, and then do the opposite. Hold your ground, speak your truth, protect your time, and let the silence that follows be the sound of your old self dying. Machiavelli did not write for men who wanted to be liked. He wrote for men who wanted to be effective. And effectiveness in the social world is not about cruelty. It is about clarity. It is about the cold, precise, unapologetic understanding that your energy is finite, your time is finite, your attention is finite. And every person who receives these things from you is either adding to your kingdom or subtracting from it. There is no third category. So go forward now as a man whose kindness is no longer a weakness. Go forward as a man whose warmth is a weapon. Go forward as a man whose boundaries are architecture. Go forward as a man who does not explain his throne, who does not perform his devotion, who does not scatter his energy across every open hand, and who does not need the room's approval to feel real. Comment this final phrase: I am kind, I am not weak. Let that be your declaration, not just to this channel, but to yourself. To the version of you that has been performing niceness for too long. To the version of you that is ready to become something else. If this video rebuilt something inside you today, like it, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications. Because what comes next will take you even deeper into the architecture of a man who cannot be manipulated, cannot be rattled, and cannot be ignored. Your kingdom starts now.